I beg leave to ask questions standing in my name on the order paper.
Sorry, I was a bit too quick there. Thank you. NICE is seen as a world leader in the translation of research into authoritative, evidence-based clinical guidelines. And the government does have confidence in NICE's ability to carry out its functions effectively. As we understand, we all know that CFS, chronic fatigue syndrome, is a complex condition, and a range of views about its management have been expressed during the development of the updated guidelines. In order to address as wide a range of possible views, NICE is holding a roundtable with stakeholders next Monday to discuss these issues, and will then take a decision on the next steps.
Thank you. First, of course, may I welcome the Noble Lord the Minister to his place and his job. And there's nothing like hitting the ground running since he's got to do 3 questions in a row. It doesn't often happen. My question was prompted by the fact that by 2 important issues. Public confidence in NICE's methodology, and indeed NICE's own confidence in its methodology, is vital. And if the Noble Lord the Minister says the government has confidence in NICE, it does beg the question why the government is not demanding that the CFS guidance, 3 years in the writing and with patient support, is not being published immediately. And second, and I quote from one of the many emails I've had about this issue, "Thank you in advance for speaking up for ME patients. No treatment is better than harmful treatment. My daughter is now in bed bound with severe ME due to GET. My Lords, GET is the current medical treatment regime for CFS sufferers, which these guidelines say should be reformed. I want to know, did NICE come under pressure to pull these guidelines because of medical vested interests in the delivery of GET, particularly since they believe that this is the treatment for long COVID?"
Well, first of all, can I thank the Noble Baroness for her very warm welcome, and I look forward to many exchanges with her, but also in terms of learning from ministers across the House, those who have been in the Department of Health before. Can I also say that I know that you are recognised as a champion of the 250,000 people who are living with CFS. And as you know, it's a complex number of symptoms, and experts disagree over the sort of multifaceted way to address this. Now, one of the things about the NICE guidelines is, you know, they were delayed twice. The first time they were delayed was because they wanted to make sure that they'd taken on board all the various submissions that had been made. But the second time they were delayed because just as they were about to be announced, there were some concerns raised by clinicians and other stakeholders. And I think it's important that if you are going to have guidelines, that they are accepted and recognised by as wide a range as possible of stakeholders, otherwise they might lose their authority. So what we really want to do is make sure that whenever we have this situation, whenever there are people with a range of views, common sense tells us that we should get these people around the table and have a conversation to see if we can agree on a way forward. And I very much hope that once we've had this round table, we will be able to agree a way forward. Thank you.
Lord Bethell.
My Lord, can I welcome my noble friend to the dispatch box as Minister for the Department for Health and Social Care and for the Minister for Life Sciences. It's without doubt the best job in government, and I know he's going to acquit it extremely well indeed. My Lord, we're making huge progress on the syndrome called long COVID, and I note the encouraging progress that NICE is making on guidance for post-COVID syndrome. But does the Minister accept that this shines a very clear spotlight on how far behind and wrong-headed we are with the diagnosis and management of ME and CFS? In particular, does he accept that in the interests of health equality and national productivity, we need to rethink the way people are got back on their feet after they've been hit by these horrible viruses?
Well, can I thank my noble friend, my predecessor, for his warm words and also his offer of advice to me as I, if you like, find my feet in this job, and I find myself swimming in the deep end, as it were. Usually I would say, when I get a question like this, I would ask my predecessor, but clearly he has the question for me. I think you're absolutely right that we have to be concerned about how we help those who are suffering from ME and COVID fatigue syndrome. But the issue is, as you will recognise, that there are a range of views on this. And as much as possible, if we want to get these guidelines widely accepted and widely respected, it's important that we get as many stakeholders around the table. NICE has agreed to this round table, and hopefully we can then move forward. Thank you.
Finlay of Llandaff. My Lords, may I also welcome the Minister to his post, and I must declare that I've been Vice Chair of the NICE Committee that has produced the revised guideline on ME/CFS over the past 3 years through consensus agreement in committee and fully compliant with NICE's rigorous processes. Will the Government work with Commissioners to ensure that appropriate specialist services for patients with ME are developed and continue, and that services monitor accounts of harms as well as benefits?
Thank you. I'd like to thank the Noble Baroness for her warm welcome. And as you can imagine, I'm new to this. I'm still learning the ropes and about NICE and their processes. But it's really important, I think, and I agree with you, that we should address the issues that you raise. And if you'd like to write to me, I'm sure I'll ask for some advice to respond to you.
Baroness Keighley.
The Noble Lord the Minister agree that patient groups and charities are key in providing support to these particular patients. They are very concerned about the absence of guidelines, particularly as they've been involved in their production. Could the Minister offer them any reassurance about timing on the guidelines?
I understand that NICE want to be as quick as possible in publishing these guidelines and are very aware that there has been 2 delays. Firstly, the delay to make sure that they took on board all the various comments, and secondly, the delay now because of some issues and issues that were raised by some of the clinician groups. The way we hope, or the way NICE hopes, because as you will understand, NICE is independent from the government, the way that NICE hopes to progress on this is to have this round table, to hear from all the different views, and to see there can be some consensus reached before the guidelines are published.
Now, Scott, Needham Market.
Does the Noble Lord the Minister accept that the prevailing view in some quarters that ME is a psychological disease is causing untold harm, including to children and young people who are being forced to accept treatments which are damaging to them, and their parents who are sometimes accused of abuse? So taking time to achieve consensus is one thing, but please will the Minister be aware that there is a huge cost to this?
Very good.
I think it's always important to recognise the unintended consequences, but also the costs of any delay. And I can understand the frustration from many ME/CFS people who have this condition about the delay to the guidelines. But I think it's really important that we try and get as much consensus as possible. And please, if you feel that it's been delayed further, please write to me and put pressure on me, so others and wider stakeholders, so they can put pressure on NICE. But I think it's really important that we try and achieve as much consensus as possible.
Chief Downpatrick.
My Lords, could the Noble Lord the Minister indicate what were the issues that were raised during the pre-publication period with the final guidelines that merited a pause on the publication?
Yes, thank you. The issue was around some of the guidelines, for example, around GT and other issues where there was concern that these were going to be deleted. There were some concerns from some groups, some stakeholders, that for some patients, not all patients, for some patients clearly found them damaging, but for some patients they might actually be helpful or partly helpful. Not a cure in themselves, but they might be partly helpful towards the treatment. And therefore, for that reason, it's why NICE have convened this round table to ensure that they hear from a wide range of views. And hopefully we can achieve some sort of consensus, but also for different stakeholders to understand where the others are coming from so they can try and reach some sort of agreement.
Cumberledge.
My Lords, those who've had the opportunity, or indeed I would say the fortitude, to read the report First Do No Harm, have been really struck by the treatment of women who have suffered greatly at the hands of a minority of members of the medical profession. But today we have another example where patients have been dismissed, ignored, and not believed, and the majority of whom are women. So I would like to ask my noble friend, can he give us an assurance that women will be listened to and not treated in the way that many of us, men and women, have found appalling?
Can I thank my noble friend, the Baroness, for that question, but also for giving me time in the early days of my job to meet with me and to give me the benefit of her experience, particularly in the issues that she covered in the Cumberledge Review. I think it's really important that, while it's absolutely right that we praise our health service when it does well, we should also be able to acknowledge when mistakes are made or when patients don't receive the kind of service that we expect patients to receive. And I think it's really important that the Baroness and my noble friend the Baroness and others do push me as the Minister, but also push the Department of Health and Social Care to make sure that we are addressing the genuine needs of patients and that patients are not ignored. I will be a champion of patients, and I give you that pledge.
My Lords, the time allowed for this question has elapsed. Baroness Sugg.